Our next speaker is MP Jenny Kwan, Member of Parliament for Vancouver East and the caucus chair for the NDP party in Parliament. We were honored to have Jenny as our closing speaker last year. And again, to hear her voice is something that really brings a unique perspective to this specific issue. She's been for 28 years, or almost I would say 29 or even 30 now, working for the community and the people of East Vancouver, a large population of which are, of course, Asian community members. In 2015, she was elected as a member of parliament for her community, and she serves as the NDP's, she served as the NDP critic for immigration, refugee, citizenship, housing, as well as the deputy critic for health, all of which are areas of concern for the community where they experience racism and discrimination. Thank you so much, Jenny, for being here to share your voice.
Well, thank you very much for that very kind introduction, and hello everybody. I'm zooming in today to join all of you from the unceded Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I also just want to take a moment to acknowledge and say thank you to Councillor Nolan for those words, for your humor, and really for the kindness of the Indigenous community for allowing a person like myself, a settler, an immigrant who came to Canada, and frankly, who's experienced discrimination pretty well all of my life since I got here in Canada. And I'm always reminded of the kindness and generosity and the principle of one heart and one mind that Indigenous elders have always taught me, and that they have shown to the people before me when they first came to Canada, when the Chinese community first came to Canada back in the day when they were not wanted. And doing work that was most dangerous to build this country. It was the Indigenous peoples who came to their aid, who offered them housing, who offered them food, who offered them medicine, who welcomed them, even though Indigenous peoples themselves were being discriminated against. So I am always grateful for their humanity and their teachings. I want to acknowledge all the people and you know, the organizers for bringing us together, the panelists, the participants, because of your interest, because you care. That's why we're here today. And when we talk about anti-Asian hate, you know, it gives us the idea, though, that maybe it's COVID that it has really come about. But the truth is, it wasn't just COVID. Anti-Asian hate existed prior to COVID, and it was escalated during the COVID period. There's no question about that. And it skyrocketed and became even more apparent. I would even argue, though, that hate and discrimination and racism really came about after, in a unchecked kind of way, unleashed in a very ugly way for, for some time, was when we saw the change in the political landscape south of the border. When we saw the Trump administration came into office, people really felt like as though they have the right to be overtly racist and right to your face in that, with that kind of aggression. I experienced it right off the top, where people told me to go back to my country, right to my face. You know, prior to that, it was often hidden. And you know, as we've been talking about, in a much more subtle way, and right now with social media, through social media, where there's basically zero accountability. People think that they can unleash hate without any personal accountability at all. And it is happening all the time in all the medium. It was talked about, the spread of misinformation, disinformation. Most certainly that's escalating it, is heightening it. And you know, for me, part of the issue that I think we need to tackle is this: why is there such angst amongst people? And for the political parties and personalities that are utilizing perhaps people's struggles to escalate hate, you know, they have to be called out as well. And I think that we as elected officials need to look at underneath all of that, where the challenges are for people's lives, and to try and tackle it. And so that we can de-escalate these issues. It just breaks my heart when I think about what's going on, when I see what's going on in our community. Just this past weekend, we have a 87-year-old senior sitting at a bus stop waiting for the bus. And what happened? Someone came up to him, shouted racial slurs at him, and began to bear spray him. Just imagine that for 1 minute. An 87-year-old senior suffered that level of violence. Our beloved Chinatown is under attack, under siege. The Chinese Cultural Center, the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Gardens are defaced with hate messages, with graffiti, and this is ongoing. It hasn't gotten better, I'm sorry to say, since the last forum. And what we need for the government to do is to put a special focus on anti-Asian hate. We need to actually tackle this and call it out by name. It is not just one group or another group, but we need to tackle each of these groups very specifically. And for me, it's dismaying that after all of this talk, and every time an incident occurs, we all sit around and we do it in the House of Commons too, to say that we condemn it, but then we don't take very much action to follow it up. Can you imagine? Canada still do not have a hate crime unit in every police department across the country. There's still not standardized training for people to understand what hate means, what hate crime is, and how to effectively deal with it, and to ensure that there's accountability and follow up in terms of action. That is just not good enough. And the excuses are wearing tire. So we have to actually do more than just to come together to say that we will tackle this. We have to actually take the action. Last but not least, I would say this: we have to absolutely support the communities, the NGOs on the ground, the people who's doing all the heavy lifting, that's doing that work right now. They should be funded with actual core funding to do this work, not off the side of their desk, not just after an incident to do a project or a program, but to say consistently and persistently that they are funded to tackle this work and to fight against hate. And in this instance, I have to say, with the rise in anti-Asian hate, the focus has to be clear and we have to tackle it. And so with that, my friends, I do just want to say thank you to all of you for your kindness, for your caring, for your proactive activities and action and participation in driving forward a community where we are all respected and loved for who we are, and where humanity trumps and should trump everything, and where hate has no place, not just in words, but in practice. So I like to just close then on May being Asian Heritage Month, to wish all of you a very happy Asian Heritage Month, not just for the month of May, but year round as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny. And I think I speak for everyone here. Our hearts go out that you had to experience that hate and discrimination, as unfortunately millions of Canadians do, whether you're an MP or someone, just an average person. One of our upcoming speakers, Terry Young, he's the chair of Success, the largest NGO in British Columbia, as well as a Vancouver police officer, and he himself experiences anti-Asian hate. It is something that it doesn't matter what your background is or what you're doing for the country. All a racist sees is the color of your skin and attacks you based on that. Thank you for sharing your truth, Jenny. Again, you very succinctly touched on what real solutions are, particularly in terms of calling it out and how we can help support organizations who are doing great work in on-the-ground grassroots efforts to address hate, racism, and dehumanization in our country.